The night my husband called me too old to my face, I was sitting under fairy lights, staring straight at the Manhattan skyline and wondering if I could get away with drowning him in creme brulee. I'm not exaggerating. The River Cafe was glowing under the Brooklyn Bridge, all candles and polished glass and couples pretending their marriages were fine. Our table was right by the window, the kind people take engagement photos in front of. My Tiffany earrings, yes, the pair I bought for myself, caught the light every time I turned my head, just enough to remind me I had once believed in romance. We were celebrating our 20th anniversary. 20 years of being the older wife to a man 15 years younger. I'd curled my silver bob, slipped into the navy dress he always said made me look timeless, and even wore the good shapewear that makes you reconsider every life choice after 7 p.m. Across from me, Ryan was scrolling through his iPhone under the table, the way teenagers do when they think adults can't see them. His untouched wine sat next to his plate while his thumb kept flicking. "Tell me you're not on Instagram during our anniversary," I said, smiling so the waiter wouldn't sense blood in the water. He glanced up, grinned. "Just answering a quick message, babe. You look amazing, by the way. Everyone's staring." "They're trying to figure out if you're my son or my husband," I replied. He laughed, a little too loud. Our friends at the table, 2 other couples, joined in. We'd done this dance for years. The "she robbed the cradle" jokes, the "what's your skincare routine" questions, the "I hope I look like you at 60" comments from women who think 60 is a polite synonym for the grave. Then Martin, one of Ryan's buddies from his startup world, raised his glass. "To Ryan and Margaret," he said. 20 years, that's what, like 100 in Hollywood years? Everyone chuckled, including me. I've always known how to laugh at myself before anyone else can. "Seriously," Martin went on, cheeks flushed from wine. "What's your secret, man? How do you keep up with a wife so?" He paused, searching for the word. "Elegant," I suggested. Ryan smirked. "Seasoned," he offered. The table laughed again. Then he added, almost under his breath but just loud enough for the table to hear, "And, you know, she's starting to be a little too old for this scene, but we make it work." It was one of those moments where the whole room keeps moving, but your soul stops. My fork hovered over my plate. Someone snorted awkwardly. One of the wives made a little oof sound and covered it with a cough. I felt the words hit, sink, and spread out slowly through my chest like dye in water. Too old for this scene. I smiled anyway. My face has 30 years of practice holding itself together in public. I lifted my glass. "Well," I said, voice steady, "if I keel over from old age tonight, at least I'll have a nice view." The table laughed, a little too loud, a little too relieved. One of the wives leaned over and whispered, "Honestly, you look younger than I feel," which was kind but not particularly helpful. The waiter arrived with our desserts, saving everyone from their own discomfort. My creme brulee came with a little candle stuck in the middle. "Happy anniversary," he said brightly. I stared at the candle. Somewhere inside me, a mean little voice whispered, "Make a wish. Wish to be 35 again. Wish to be the kind of woman no one dares call too old in public." Instead, I wished I could shove the whole flaming dish into Ryan's smug mouth. He clinked his spoon against his glass to get everyone's attention. "Seriously," he said, putting an arm around the back of my chair. "Margaret's been my rock for 20 years. I mean, she's not exactly up to speed on all the stuff I'm building now, but she's always supported me." I turned my head slowly, studying his profile. The way his jaw flexed when he talked about stuff he was building. Like I was some retired secretary who'd never signed a contract or negotiated a deal in my life. I used to run a successful interior design firm while he was learning how to do bicep curls correctly. But sure, I wasn't up to speed. On the way home, riding in the back of the Uber because he said he'd had just enough wine, he slid his arm around me again. "That was fun, right?" he asked. "It was illuminating," I said. He chuckled. "Don't be sensitive, babe. You know I was just joking." "You called me too old," I replied calmly. He shrugged. "Come on, it's just the truth. I mean, for this crowd, you know? These parties, these investors, this whole scene, you're more home, Kindle, tea, that kind of vibe." I looked out the window at the Manhattan skyline glowing in the distance. For 20 years I had let that skyline mean possibility. Tonight it looked like a line of judges watching silently. Besides, he continued, already half distracted by his phone again, we should talk about that painting in your studio. The big one from your first husband's collection? If we sell it, we could really scale this new project I'm working on. It's time to think bigger, don't you think? I listened to him talk about we and bigger and investors, about how people my age understood the future better. Meanwhile, a thought I'd never let myself have before finally surfaced, clear and sharp. Maybe the oldest thing in this marriage wasn't my age. Maybe it was the way I'd been letting him treat me. And for the first time in a very long time, something inside me shifted, just a hairline crack, small enough that no one could see it from the outside. But I felt it. The morning after that disastrous anniversary dinner, I woke up to the sound of Ryan humming in the bathroom, completely off-key, like a man who had slept beautifully after calling his wife too old. In public, I lay there staring at the ceiling fan, wondering if it would be socially acceptable to detach it and let it accidentally fall on him. Just enough to rattle his skull, not enough for jail time. When he stepped out, towel around his waist, hair perfect like he'd hired a small team of angels to blow-dry it, he smiled. A bright, oblivious smile. Morning, babe. Big day. Meeting investors? You know how it is. I did not, in fact, know how it was, because according to him, I was now too old to understand such complicated things as business, investors, and apparently being alive. He kissed the top of my head as if I were a golden retriever and left the room. I stared after him, thinking, 20 years married, and the man still kissed like someone stamping a receipt. I pulled myself out of bed, tied my robe, and walked downstairs. The kitchen smelled like burnt toast, Ryan's signature dish. He'd left the toaster on again. I swear, if the marriage didn't kill me, the fire hazard would. I grabbed my Kindle and tried to read, but all I could hear was his voice from last night echoing in my skull. She's starting to be a little too old for this scene. Too old. At 60, with a mortgage fully paid, a solid retirement fund, and decent cholesterol. Too old. The phone buzzed. It was Joan. Joan, my neighbor, my best friend, my emotional support raccoon in human form. Coffee? She texted. Which, in Joan speak, meant, I sense chaos. Come explain yourself. I walked over to her brownstone wearing my robe and slippers. She opened the door, scanned me from head to toe, and said, Oh my God. He said something stupid, didn't he? You only come in slippers when he says something stupid. I sat at her kitchen island, and she handed me a mug of coffee the size of a cereal bowl. Joan believed in comforting the wounded with caffeine. I told her everything. The dinner, the joke, the too old, the request to sell my painting. She stared at me, jaw slack, then set her mug down with a thud. Aha, she declared. He wants money. Every time a man starts mentioning your age, he also starts mentioning your assets. It's like male biology. I almost choked on my coffee. Joan, I'm serious. I am too, she said, wagging a spoon. You think young men marry older women because we make excellent grilled cheese? No. Stability, sweetheart. Stability. And right now he's sniffing around yours. I covered my face with both hands. She patted my shoulder. And don't take the too old thing personally, she said. William told me once that I was too old to understand TikTok. I made him sleep on the couch until he apologized with a cheesecake. I couldn't help laughing. A real laugh, the kind that hurts your ribs a little. Then Joan leaned closer and whispered, But seriously, did he actually say it out loud in public in front of people who have ears? Yes, she gasped. Divorce. Immediate divorce. We don't even need a reason other than bad manners. I burst out laughing again. Her expression softened. Honey, men who weaponize age don't realize something very important. What? We always get wiser. They just get louder. I shook my head, smiling. But inside, something shifted again. Slightly deeper this time. We spent the next hour gossiping, joking, drinking too much coffee. At one point, Joan accidentally spilled creamer all over her sweater and said, Great, now I look like I lost a fight with a dairy cow. I laughed so hard I snorted, and for a moment, life felt normal again. But when I walked back home, the house felt different. Quieter, colder. Ryan wasn't back yet. His laptop bag was gone. His Rolex box was out on the counter, open. Odd, because he rarely forgot it anywhere. I picked it up to put it away and noticed a folded receipt underneath. A boutique on Fifth Avenue, a jewelry purchase. Yesterday. Not my size, not my style, and definitely not something he'd bought for our anniversary dinner. My hands tightened around the thin slip of paper. So this wasn't just about age, or money, or a cruel joke. Something else was moving beneath the surface. Something much bigger. And suddenly, Joan's words weren't funny anymore. I stared at that Fifth Avenue jewelry receipt like it had personally insulted my entire bloodline. The total, the total, was the kind of number you only spend when you're in love, stupid, or both. And Ryan, bless his optimistic little heart, was neither in love with me last night nor stupid enough to buy something that flashy without planning to flash it at someone. I slipped the receipt into my robe pocket and breathed slowly, the way my therapist once taught me. Inhale strength, exhale homicide. Ryan came home around noon, cheerfully carrying a bag from some overpriced salad place. "Got you lunch," he called out. "Kale and quinoa, like you like." I do not like kale and quinoa. I eat kale and quinoa because I like having a functioning heart. There is a difference. He kissed my cheek, opened the fridge, and started rearranging things like a man auditioning for the role of helpful husband in a commercial. "Busy morning?" I asked casually. He perked up. "Huge. So many calls. Investors want me everywhere today." "Everywhere," I echoed, sipping my coffee. "Including Fifth Avenue?" His hand froze around a bottle of kombucha. He blinked at me, twice, like a car blinking its turn signal while the driver panics about the correct exit. Then he recovered with a smile. "Oh yeah, I passed by to, compare packaging designs for the project." "Packaging," I repeated. Very important, very creative." I leaned against the counter, smiling serenely. "Did the packaging happen to come in a blue velvet box?" He swallowed so hard I could practically hear his Adam's apple squeak. Before he could come up with another kindergarten-level lie, his iPad, left on the kitchen island, lit up. A message bubble appeared, bright and bold. "B, did you pick it up? Can't wait to see it tonight." Ryan lunged for the iPad so fast he knocked over his kombucha. I calmly reached for a towel. "You spilled your fermented happiness drink," I said sweetly. He dabbed at the mess, red-faced, muttering something about notifications syncing wrong. But I'd already seen the sender's name. B. Bella. A name I'd heard him mention exactly once, something vague about a PR consultant who was super talented, like a genius. Men only use the word genius for two people, Steve Jobs and the woman they're cheating with. I walked over to the sink, rinsed my mug, and asked lightly, "Who's Bella?" He froze again. At this point, I started wondering if he needed a neurological exam. She's in marketing," he stammered. "She's helping with outreach. Just professional. Very professional." "Interesting," I said. "She seems excited to see your packaging." He dropped the towel. For a moment, the kitchen was so quiet you could hear the refrigerator judging him. Then, thank God, the universe sent me divine comedic relief. The kombucha bottle, which he had set upright but not closed properly, suddenly hissed and exploded. A geyser of bubbly vinegar shot straight into the air, splattering the backsplash, the cabinets, and most beautifully, Ryan's entire face. He shrieked. I think it got in my eye. I covered my mouth, trying not to laugh, but a tiny laugh escaped anyway, which made him glare through the kombucha foam dripping down his chin. "Oh no," I said, patting his shoulder. "It's organic, you'll be fine." Joan chose that exact moment to walk in through the back door, because Joan never knocked a day in her life, and stopped mid-step. She stared at Ryan, sticky and sparkling like a human salad dressing. Then she turned to me. "Should I call 911?" she whispered. "Or a car wash?" I lost it. Actually lost it. Bent over the sink, laughing so hard tears rolled down my face. Even Ryan couldn't keep the indignation going. He looked so ridiculous he started laughing too, though it sounded like a dying accordion. When we finally calmed down, Joan slipped close to me and murmured, "Sweetheart, men who cheat always get hit with something messy first. You're lucky it's kombucha and not a frying pan." I snorted. She squeezed my hand, but the laughter faded when I remembered that receipt in my pocket and the message on his iPad. And the way he panicked. Really panicked. When I asked about her. Once Joan left and the kitchen was clean again, Ryan headed upstairs to shower. I watched him go, a strange mix of amusement and dread twisting in my stomach. Because now it wasn't just suspicion. It wasn't insecurity. It wasn't my age. It wasn't even last night's humiliation. Something was happening behind my back. Something with a woman named Bella. Something he thought I'd never catch. But he didn't know one thing. Women my age We don't investigate. We confirm. And I was about to confirm everything. Ryan must have taken the longest shower in recorded human history. I swear the man was upstairs steaming like a dumpling for 45 minutes, long enough for me to clean the kitchen twice, fold a load of laundry, and rethink every romantic decision I'd made since 2003. When he finally came downstairs, fresh-faced and smelling like the eucalyptus body wash I bought, which he claimed made him feel like a CEO, he looked nervous, a little too nervous, like a teenager sneaking home past curfew. "Hey," he said, leaning on the counter trying for casual. "I was thinking we should have dinner together tonight. Just us. Reset the vibe." Reset the vibe. If he'd said recalibrate our emotional bandwidth, I might have thrown a skillet. I played along. "Dinner sounds nice," I said. "Where?" He perked up. "I found a place in Midtown. Trendy. Reviews say it's, youthful. Youthful." My left eye twitched. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Joan again. A single message. "Emergency. Come over. Bring humor." I excused myself and walked 2 houses down. Joan opened the door in slippers shaped like rabbits, and not subtle slippers, massive white rabbits with floppy ears and googly eyes. "Joan," I said, staring at her feet, "are you all right?" "No," she announced dramatically. I tried meditating and fell asleep. Now I'm spiritually behind schedule. I blinked. "Is that a thing?" "In this house it is." She waddled to her kitchen, the rabbit ears flapping like distressed birds. I sat down. "What's the emergency?" She poured us 2 cups of coffee, extra strong, extra sugar, the opposite of the quinoa lifestyle Ryan keeps trying to push on me. "He texted me," she said. My spine straightened. "Who texted you?" "Your husband." My eyebrows hit the ceiling. "Why on earth would Ryan text you?" She lifted her phone. "I think it was accidental. He meant to text someone else. But God works in mysterious ways, darling." She handed me her iPhone. The message read, "Dinner tonight, 7:30, wear the dress I love." And below that, a picture of a champagne bottle chilling in ice. I frowned. "Why would he send her that?" "Margaret," Joan said gently, patting my hand, "I don't own a dress he loves. I own exactly 3 dresses: funeral, church, and laundry day." My stomach flipped. "So he meant to send that to Bella." Joan nodded sympathetically. Then, after a moment of silence, she added, "At least he didn't send her a picture of himself." My heart can only handle so much. I pressed a hand to my forehead. Joan sighed. "You know what this means, right?" "Yes, he's taking Bella to the place he told me about." "No," she said. "It means we need binoculars." I stared at her. She stared back. The rabbits on her slippers stared too. "You're not serious," I said. "Dead serious. If he wants to play spy games, we will play spy games. Let me get my coat." And that's how I ended up in Joan's Toyota, parked across from a gastropub in Midtown, with binoculars in my hands and a rabbit slippers dragging detective by my side. Joan squinted through her binoculars. "Ah, there she is. Miss Marketing Genius. And she's wearing a dress that says I watch reality TV unironically." I bit back a laugh. Sure enough, Bella appeared, tall and polished, walking straight into the restaurant. 5 minutes later, Ryan arrived. Same jacket he wore on our anniversary. Same cologne, same smile he used to save for me. He slid his hand onto Bella's lower back as they walked inside. My heart cracked, but not in the way it used to. It cracked cleanly, like something that had been waiting years to break. Joan handed me a tissue. "For the crying," she said gently. I wiped my eyes. "I'm not crying." "No? Then what's the tissue for?" "I'm calculating alimony." She nodded approvingly. "That's my girl." We sat there for a while, watching them laugh at something on Bella's phone. It hurt. It really hurt. But then Joan leaned over and whispered, "You want to key his car? Just a little? I won't stop you." I burst out laughing. Loud, cathartic, ridiculous laughter. And in that moment, something in me settled. Not broken, not defeated, just done. I had seen enough. Done letting him diminish me. Done letting him use my age as a weapon. Done pretending his betrayal was something I could fix. As the restaurant lights reflected in the car window beside me, I suddenly felt unbelievably clear. This wasn't the end of my life. This wasn't even the end of my story. This was the moment I stepped back into my own power. And tomorrow, I was going to start with the truth. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was heartbroken, although yes, that too. But mostly because Joan kept texting me memes of women holding wine glasses and glaring into the distance with captions like, "When he calls you old but still can't fold a fitted sheet." By sunrise, I was emotionally exhausted but spiritually entertained. Ryan, on the other hand, came home at 1:12 a.m., smelling faintly of truffle fries and regret. He tried to sneak into bed, but the man is built like a golden retriever, zero stealth. The mattress practically yelled his arrival. "Long dinner?" I murmured without turning. He froze. I could hear his soul leave his body. Yeah, investors really love to talk," he said, voice cracking like a teenager trying to buy beer with a fake ID. "Must have been delicious," I replied. He paused again. "What?" "The conversation," I said sweetly. "Delicious conversation." He exhaled, relieved. He shouldn't have been. By morning, he acted like nothing was wrong. He even made breakfast, which was how I knew things were very wrong. Ryan never cooks unless he's guilty or wants money. Or both. He slid a plate of scrambled eggs in front of me. Eggs so rubbery I could have used them as protective headgear. "So," he said breezily, "I've been thinking, maybe we should talk about the investment again. You know, the painting, the plan, the future." The painting. The Monet that my first husband had spent his last bonus check on. The one Ryan had been eyeing like a hungry raccoon outside a garbage bin. I took a bite of the eggs and immediately regretted it. "Are these fully cooked?" I asked politely. "Of course," he said. "I used the air fryer." "You air-fried scrambled eggs?" He frowned. "Everyone's doing new things these days." I said. "Everyone." He didn't catch it. Before I could gather the strength to swallow another bite, my doorbell rang. I prayed it wasn't a wellness subscription Ryan accidentally ordered again. The last one mailed us a box of seaweed snacks that tasted like disappointment. I opened the door. There stood Joan, wearing sunglasses, indoors. At 8:30 a.m., "I'm here," she announced, pushing past me. I brought backup. Behind her walked a woman in a tailored navy suit, carrying a leather portfolio and the energy of someone who wins arguments for sport. "Margaret," Joan said proudly. "Meet the woman who destroyed my cousin Frank in his divorce last year. He tried to hide his boat. She found the boat." The lawyer extended her hand. "Erica Miles, I specialize in marital financial misconduct." Ryan, still chewing his air-fried tragedy, blinked. Hi." Erica nodded politely at him, then turned back to me. "Shall we have a private conversation?" Ryan opened his mouth to object, but Joan, God bless her, stepped between them like a bouncer at a nightclub. "Sweetie," she said to him, "why don't you finish those eggs? They look chewy." He sat down, confused and slightly offended. Erica and I went to the living room. She opened her folder and spoke in the crisp, calm voice of a woman who had ruined many men's Tuesdays. "Joan told me you might have concerns about your husband's financial behavior. Before we proceed, I need to ask, has he pressured you recently to sell any assets?" "Yes," I said. "A painting worth quite a lot." She nodded slowly. "And has he made any unusual credit card charges?" I pulled out my phone. "Fifth Avenue, several hotels, a restaurant last night." "And," Joan added, popping a grape in her mouth, "he called her old." Erica didn't even blink. "He said that out loud?" "Oh yes," Joan said. "Right into the open air. The audacity was visible." Erica wrote something down. Then she leaned back and looked at me the way doctors look before they deliver news you won't like, but absolutely need. "Margaret," she said, "what you're describing could qualify as both infidelity and financial manipulation. If we document this properly, you will be fully protected under your prenup." My heart thudded. Protected, a word I hadn't felt in years. "What do I need to do?" I asked. She folded her hands. "For now, act as normal as possible. Keep collecting evidence. Don't confront him directly yet. Men like this tend to reveal more when they believe you're unaware." Joan nodded vigorously. "Yes. Pretend you're clueless. I do that every weekend around my in-laws. It's very effective." I choked on a laugh. Erica stood. "I'll prepare everything. Call me if he asks you to sign anything, or if he requests more money. And Margaret?" "Yes?" "You're not too old for anything," she said. "Except tolerating this nonsense." She and Joan left together, Joan announcing she needed a celebratory donut. When I returned to the kitchen, Ryan looked up innocently. "Everything okay?" he asked. I smiled. A calm, practiced smile. The kind of smile women wear when they've found both God and a lawyer. "Oh yes," I said softly. "Everything is finally starting to make sense." Ryan must have sensed the atmosphere shifting, because the next day he transformed into the most affectionate husband Brooklyn had ever seen. He made coffee, He folded laundry. He even wiped down the countertops voluntarily. This was suspicious. This was worryingly suspicious. Men like Ryan do not wipe countertops unless they're about to commit a felony or ask for money. At 11 a.m., he peeked into my studio with the same expression a child wears before asking if the family cat can be dyed blue. "Babe?" he said softly. "Yes? Can we talk about the future?" Ah, there it was. The future talk, trademarked by husbands everywhere before they attempt something catastrophic. He stepped into the room, brushing imaginary dust off the sleeves of his jacket, a nervous tic he'd developed after lying too often. "You know that painting of your first husband's? The big one with the boats? The Monet?" I asked dryly. "Yes, I'm aware I own it." He laughed too loudly. "Right. The Monet." As if he had discovered the name for the first time in his life. "Anyway," he continued, "I'm thinking this might be the perfect moment to sell it. The market is hot, we could get an amazing deal, and I have this opportunity with Bella. I mean, with the business. The business, babe, strictly business." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean Bella's strictly business?" He blinked, twice again. Those blinks were going to become diagnostic soon. "I didn't say her name." "You did." "No, I didn't. Ryan, you just did." He opened his mouth, closed it, and finally muttered, "Well, maybe you heard wrong." A bold strategy considering I was 60, not 95. I stayed calm, like Erica instructed. "Tell me more about this business." He perked up instantly, like a puppy who heard the word treat. "Oh, it's huge, massive, transformative. We're meeting with major people, investors, strategists, influencers." I held up a hand. "Did you say influencers?" "Yes," he said, excited. "Bella knows a few. She's brilliant at networking." "So brilliant that she mistakenly texted Joan last night?" I asked sweetly. His entire body stiffened. What?" "Oh, don't worry," I said lightly. "Joan thought it was very romantic. She even suggested I iron her laundry day dress in case you wanted her to wear it tonight." His mouth opened, closed, opened again. He resembled a confused trout. Right at that moment, Joan barged through the back door, because Joan's life philosophy is that knocking wastes precious time. She marched straight into the studio holding a tote bag. "Emergency delivery," she announced. Ryan startled. "What's happening?" Joan pulled out a pair of binoculars. "For later," she said cryptically. He blinked. "What later?" I patted his arm. "Oh, honey, grown-up things. You wouldn't understand." Joan snorted so loudly I thought she might rupture something. "Anyway," she said, turning to me, "I brought snacks. Investigation snacks." "Investigation snacks?" Ryan repeated weakly. "Yes," Joan said proudly, handing me a bag of pretzels. "Every good detective needs carbs." Ryan stared between us like he'd walked into a secret meeting of elderly spies, which in fairness wasn't entirely wrong. "Okay," he said slowly. "I feel like something is going on." Joan gasped theatrically. "Wow, he notices. Add that to the list of miracles." I clapped a hand over my mouth to hide a laugh. Ryan looked wounded. "I'm serious, Margaret. You're being weird." "I'm being normal," I said calmly. "No, you're being quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that scares me." "Well," Joan said brightly, "maybe don't call your wife old at a restaurant and you wouldn't have this problem." I nearly dropped the pretzels. Ryan turned red from jawline to hairline, like a thermometer in July. I was joking," he stammered. "Just joking." Joan crossed her arms. "Men always say that when they're caught. Jokes, misunderstandings, lighting issues. Never their fault." "Lighting issues?" he asked, confused. "Yes," Joan said. "Lighting issues. It's never the cheating, it's always the lighting." I couldn't breathe. Tears rolled down my cheeks from laughing. Ryan threw his hands up. "You two are unbelievable. I am trying to build a future here." "Yes," I said sweetly, "a future funded by selling my painting." He froze. Then cautiously, "So is that a yes?" I exhaled slowly. Erica's voice echoed in my mind. "Stay calm. Let him talk. Let him dig the hole." So I smiled, a gentle, indulgent smile. "Ryan," I said softly, "why don't you tell me everything tonight? Every detail. I want to understand completely." His eyes lit up. He thought he was winning. Winning. "Oh, of course. Great, perfect." He kissed my forehead and ran upstairs, humming again. The moment he vanished, Joan looked at me. "Well," she said, "tonight should be fun." "Fun," I echoed. She grinned. "My dear, we're about to witness the rare and beautiful moment where a man willingly confesses all his crimes without being asked twice." I burst into laughter again. But then I sobered. Tonight, I would let him talk. Tonight, he would reveal everything he'd hidden. And tonight, the truth would walk into the open on its own legs. Ryan spent the whole afternoon preparing for the big conversation like he was about to pitch his startup on national television. I could hear him upstairs rehearsing in the mirror. Margaret, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. No, too desperate. Margaret, babe, trust me. No, too whiny. Margaret, you're so wise and youthful. Okay, that sounds like a lie. I had to cover my mouth to keep from laughing. If he'd put half this effort into our marriage, we wouldn't be here. By evening, he came downstairs wearing his best blazer, the one he calls his investor magnet. It's just navy blue. The only thing it has ever magnetized is lint. Ready? He asked proudly. Absolutely, I said, holding back a smile. We sat at the dining table. He dimmed the lights, he lit a candle. He brought out his MacBook Pro like it was the Ark of the Covenant. Babe, he began, what I'm about to show you will change our lives. Oh good, I said. It's been a while since we've had life-changing events, at least 20 hours. He didn't catch the sarcasm. Bless him. He opened a PowerPoint with a dramatic whoosh sound effect. Slide 1, a stock photo of a rocket going into space. Ryan, I whispered, is this NASA? It's symbolism, he said proudly. Slide 2, a photo of Bella, cropped but still unmistakably Bella, smiling at a networking event. I raised one eyebrow. That's, just a team photo, he said quickly, clicking ahead like his mouse was on fire. Slide 3, the future of brand elevation in giant neon letters. Slide 4, a spreadsheet of numbers that looked like he'd invented them during breakfast. I nodded as he talked, playing the supportive wife I once actually was. Yes, I see, impressive, I murmured. Very forward-thinking. Oh wow, exponential growth. That's exponential? He glowed. Men love being agreed with more than they love breathing. Then came the slide he'd been building toward. Slide 9. Needed capital, $480,000. Primary asset to liquidate, Monet boat painting. He cleared his throat. So, we sell your painting, we put everything into the business, and boom, our future is secured. Our future, I repeated softly. Our. Of course, he said, smiling his golden boy smile. I folded my hands. Ryan, I have a few questions. He nodded eagerly. Yes, babe, anything. First, why is Bella labeled as Director of Creative Synergy? He froze. Oh, well, she's part of the team. And why does she have a company credit card? That's, normal for startups. And why does the business account number match the one on the Fifth Avenue receipt? He blinked so fast he looked like he was signaling SOS. Before he could make up another toddler-level lie, Joan burst through the door. Again, no knocking, no hesitation, just dramatic entrance. Emergency, she announced. Ryan groaned. What now? Joan waved her iPhone. You need to see this, she told me. She pressed play. A video popped up, a very grainy video, of Ryan, at the Midtown restaurant the night before, gesturing wildly while saying, she's 60. She doesn't get what we're building. Ryan went pale. I can explain, he stuttered. Oh, please do, Joan said sweetly, pulling up a chair. This should be good. Let me get comfortable. She dramatically adjusted her rabbit slippers, wiggling the ears for emphasis. Ryan rubbed his forehead. Okay, listen, Bella misunderstood. I mean 60 isn't old, 60 is the new 40. I held up a hand. Ryan. Stop. He shut his mouth. Then, because the universe has a sense of humor, Ryan's phone buzzed on the table. A message preview lit up the screen. Bella can't wait to celebrate tonight. Bring the champagne. Joan sucked in a sharp breath like she was watching a season finale plot twist. Ryan dove for the phone. I put my hand over it first. He froze. Margaret, I can explain. I inhaled deeply. Erica's words echoed in my head. Let him dig the hole. Let him bury himself. Go on, I said softly. I'm listening. He opened his mouth and delivered the single worst excuse I have ever heard from a grown man. It's not what it looks like. Champagne is a metaphor. I stared. Joan stared. Even the air stood still, horrified. A metaphor? I repeated. Yes, he insisted desperately. A metaphor for success. Joan clutched her stomach. Oh Lord, I'm gonna pee. Keep going. This is fantastic. Ryan scrambled. No, seriously, it's not romantic champagne. It's professional champagne. I pressed my fingers to my temples. Ryan, champagne cannot be professional. He panicked. I mean, maybe? Like, if you drink it in an office. Joan actually fell off her chair laughing. Full collapse. Meanwhile, Ryan looked at me, sweating like a sinner in church. Margaret, please, tell me you believe me. I stood slowly. I believe, I said quietly, that tonight, everything finally makes sense. His eyes widened. He knew. He finally knew. The performance was over. A storm was coming, a legal storm, a justice storm, and he had no umbrella. Ryan didn't sleep that night. I know this because I also didn't sleep, and I could hear him pacing the hallway like a man waiting for the results of a paternity test on national TV. At one point, he even stopped outside our bedroom door and whispered to himself, "Professional champagne, why did I say that? Why didn't I say sparkling water? Nobody cheats with sparkling water." I had to shove my fist into my pillow to stop myself from laughing. By morning, he looked like a deflated parade balloon. Meanwhile, I woke up early, showered, put on a soft cashmere sweater, and made myself a Starbucks latte with my home espresso machine, the height of luxury for a woman preparing for war. Ryan stumbled into the kitchen, hair sticking out like he'd argued with a hedge. "Morning?" he croaked. "Morning," I said cheerfully. He blinked. "You're very calm." "Yes," I said. "I am." He looked frightened. Before he could attempt another metaphor-based excuse, my phone buzzed. It was Erica, the lawyer. "Are you free to come in today?" "We're ready." Perfect timing. "I have an appointment," I told Ryan, grabbing my keys. "Appointment? With who? What kind?" he asked, voice squeaky. "Self-care," I replied calmly. Joan, who had magically appeared at my back door again, I was beginning to think she lived inside my pantry, shouted from outside, "We're gonna get her eyebrows done." Ryan froze. "Eyebrows?" "Yes," Joan said proudly, "shaping the future, one hair at a time." She winked at me behind his back. We left him standing in the kitchen, confused and slightly terrified. Joan drove us to Erica's office in her Toyota. The passenger seat made its usual thunk sound when I sat down. "What is that noise?" I asked. "No idea," Joan shrugged. "I assume something important fell off years ago. If the car wants to warn me, it can say it out loud." We reached the law office, glass walls, marble floors, everything smelling faintly of expensive toner. Erica greeted us with her usual calm authority. "I've reviewed everything," she said, tapping her Mont Blanc pen. Click, 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 the sound of a man's future collapsing. "We're moving to phase 2. "Phase 2 sounds dangerous," Joan whispered. "It is," Erica replied. "For Ryan." She slid a folder across the table. Inside were screenshots, spreadsheets, transfers to Bella's consulting account, audio clips from my Apple Watch, and the glorious Midtown video. "This," Erica said, "is enough for a judge to freeze all accounts your husband has touched in the past 12 months. I exhaled. Not relief, something firmer. Resolve. "Today," Erica continued, "I need you to get one more thing, a confirmation from him that he intended for you to sell the Monet." "How do I get him to admit that?" I asked. "Oh, please," Joan chimed in. "Just say the word money and he'll appear like Beetlejuice." Erica nodded. "Exactly. He'll confess on his own if you sound willing but uncertain. Men like Ryan can't help explaining their plans. They think it makes them sound smart." I pressed my lips together to hide a smile. Ryan did love explaining things I already knew. When we finished signing documents, Erica added, "And Margaret, no dramatics yet. Stay calm, he needs to believe you're still cooperating." Joan snorted. "She is the calmest betrayed wife I've ever seen. I personally would have thrown his sneakers into the Hudson." Erica sighed. "Please don't do that yet." "Yet?" Joan perked up. Erica ignored her. Back home, I found Ryan sitting stiffly on the couch, hands folded like a schoolboy awaiting punishment. "Hey," he said, voice small. "Hey," I replied, setting down my keys. He swallowed. "So, about last night, and Bella and the, champagne." I held up a hand. "Ryan, let's not revisit metaphors. I simply want to talk about the business." His eyes lit up. "Tragic. Yes, yes, of course. Oh my God, babe, I knew you'd see the bigger picture. So the painting." "Slow down," I said gently. "I want to understand everything first." He sat up straighter. "Well, great. Perfect. Let me show you the revised forecast." He pulled out his MacBook again. This man loved spreadsheets like toddlers love glitter, messily and without skill. He rotated the screen toward me. Numbers everywhere, all equally fictional. "So," he said proudly, "once the Monet sells, we'll have enough capital to launch phase 1. And then Bella, strictly business Bella, will manage our PR rollout, and then," I repeated softly, "so you do need the Monet from me to fund all of this." "Yes," he said enthusiastically, then realized, froze, backpedaled. "I mean, not need technically, but yes, okay, yes, I need it." A soft ding echoed in my mind, the sound of Erica's checklist being completed. "And," I added, "you want me to sign the transfer papers to move our joint funds into the business account?" He nodded automatically. Yes, babe, exactly. Now you're getting it. He beamed. He beamed, as if he'd just taught me long division. I smiled slowly, not sweetly, not cruelly, just truthfully. Thank you, Ryan, I said softly, for finally explaining everything. His smile faltered. What do you mean? Before I could answer, Joan came bursting through the back door again, holding a container of lasagna. I made dinner, she announced. And by made, I mean heated. And by heated, I mean I took it out of the packaging and hoped for the best. She looked at Ryan. Oh, are you two discussing the Monet money? He choked. Why? Why does she know? We share snacks and information, Joan said proudly. It's a package deal. Ryan's face drained of color. I stood. Ryan, I said softly, we're done for today. I need some air. He panicked. Are you mad? I picked up my coat. No, I said, I'm finally beautifully awake. I walked out onto our porch, inhaling the crisp New York air the way people in meditation apps pretend to. My hands were steady. My heartbeat was calm. I wasn't scared. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even angry. I was done. And done is a powerful place for a woman my age to stand. I sat on the porch swing, letting it creak gently beneath me. After a few minutes, I heard frantic footsteps behind me. Ryan burst through the door like a toddler chasing a balloon. Margaret, babe, wait. He hurried toward me, tripped over the doormat, caught himself on the railing, and tried to play it cool like nothing happened. I didn't comment. His dignity had suffered enough for one lifetime. Can we talk? He pleaded. We've been talking, I replied. You've just been forgetting to tell the truth. He gulped. Then, because the universe has impeccable comedic timing, Joan's head popped out between our hedges. She held a garden rake, a very large garden rake. Everything okay? She whispered loudly. Weapon or witness? I can do either, Ryan squeaked. I don't need a weapon. Okay, she said, shrugging. Witness it is. And she stood there, behind the hedge, holding the rake like a confused scarecrow. I ignored her. Ryan, I said, I don't want more excuses. I want honesty. He rubbed his face. Fine, I wasn't totally honest. About Bella, I pressed. He winced. About some things. Which things? The champagne wasn't a metaphor. I know. And the text message wasn't for Joan. I know. And the dinner wasn't with investors. I know. And the Ryan, I cut in. You can skip the ones I already know. He hesitated, then sank onto the swing beside me. I messed up, he whispered. Joan called from behind the hedge. Understatement of the year. He jumped. I didn't even blink. Margaret, he said urgently, I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just, I don't know, insecure. Insecure? I echoed, surprised. Yes, he insisted. You're successful, mature, calm. People respect you. Meanwhile, I'm almost 40 and I still can't fold a fitted sheet. That's true, I said gently. See? He cried. Exactly. I had to hide my smile. He looked like a man confessing his sins to a priest who already knew the ending. And Bella? I asked quietly. He closed his eyes. I liked the attention. She made me feel young, like I wasn't some guy married to a woman who already knows everything. Yes. There it was. The truth he never dared say out loud. He thought my wisdom made him small. He thought my age made him old. He thought my strength reminded him of his weaknesses. Margaret, I swear, he said softly. I didn't fall in love with her. Joan shouted, Of course you didn't. She's 29 and thinks Kayla's personality. I nearly choked on my own spit. Ryan flinched, then whispered, I fell in love with feeling admired, and that was the first truly honest thing he'd said in years. I looked at him, really looked at him. This wasn't a villain. This wasn't a mastermind. This wasn't even a good liar. This was a boy who'd grown older but not grown up. Ryan, I said gently, you didn't lose admiration because I turned 60. You lost it because you stopped deserving it. He dropped his gaze. A long silence settled between us. Then suddenly, loudly, Joan's rake slipped from her hands and clattered onto the concrete. She froze. I'm invisible. She whispered to herself, You don't see me. Ryan muttered, I can definitely see you. No, you can't, she insisted, ducking behind the hedge again. I sighed. Chaos always showed up when Joan did. Ryan, I said softly, I'm going inside now. I need to think. He reached for my hand, but I pulled it back gently. I'm not leaving you, he said desperately. I know, I replied, but the question is whether I'm staying. His face crumpled. I walked toward the door. At the threshold, I heard his voice crack behind me. Margaret, please, I can fix this. Without turning, I answered, You can't fix something you never valued. Inside the house, I leaned against the closed door and exhaled shakily. Not grief, not fear, a release, a truth settling into its rightful place. And somewhere outside, I heard Joan whisper triumphantly, "Good, that's the line she needed. Now it's game time." I stayed inside for hours, not because I was unsure, quite the opposite. I just needed the quiet, the stillness, the space to let my new reality settle into place, like a snow globe after the shaking stops. Around 5 p.m., I finally moved. I brewed tea, real tea, not Ryan's kale-infused detox water, which tastes like regret and lawn clippings. I sat in my studio, sipping slowly, staring at the Monet he wanted so desperately. My first husband had bought it for me after I launched my design firm. It wasn't just art. It was proof that someone had once believed in my talent without asking what he could take from it. Just then, my front door opened with a dramatic slam, the kind only one person in the world could produce. Joan stormed in, holding a briefcase. A very old briefcase, with stickers on it. One said, "Property of Joan, do not judge." Another had a faded duck wearing sunglasses. "I brought the documents," she announced. "What documents?" I asked. She plopped the briefcase onto my table and flung it open. Inside was a sandwich, a roll of tape, 2 mismatched socks, and a pack of gum. "Oh," she said, blinking. "Wrong briefcase." She rummaged again in her tote bag and pulled out another. This one looked normal. "This," she said proudly, "contains everything Erica needs us to sign." I exhaled. "So it's happening." "It's happening," Joan nodded. "Phase 3. "Phase 3? I asked. She nodded again, eyes narrowing dramatically like a spy in a discount movie trailer. "Yes, Phase 1, discovery. Phase 2, confirmation. Phase 3, the part where justice gets dolled up and puts on heels." I snorted so hard I nearly inhaled my tea. We spread the documents across my studio table. Then, right at the moment my pen touched the first page, we heard it. A loud crash, followed by a yelp, followed by Ryan yelling, "I'm okay, I'm probably okay." Joan whispered, "He fell off the porch swing again." I closed my eyes. Of course he did. A moment later, he limped into my studio doorway, holding his shin. "Babe," he croaked, "can we talk one more time? Please, I swear I can change." Joan leaned over and whispered, "Should I fake a medical emergency? I can fall down convincingly." I shook my head. Ryan stepped inside, looking defeated, hopeful, terrified, the full cocktail of a guilty man sensing the end. "Margaret," he said softly, "I made a huge mistake." "Yes," I said gently, "you did." He nodded desperately. "But I can fix it. I'll stop the project. I'll cut ties with Bella. I'll do anything." "You can't undo what you did," I said quietly. He swallowed hard. "I love you." I looked at him steadily. "No," I said, "you loved what I gave you. Stability, respect, a life already built. You never wanted to build one with me." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. "I never made you feel small," I continued. "You made yourself feel small beside me, and instead of growing, you tried to shrink me." Ryan's eyes filled. It should have broken me. 20 years with this man, but instead I felt free. Finally free. Then, because even the universe respects dramatic timing, there was a knock on the door. 3 sharp knocks. Joan whispered, "Is that the pizza I ordered?" "No," came a calm, authoritative voice. It was Erica. She stepped inside wearing a navy coat and holding a leather portfolio, the same one she used to end men's delusions before lunchtime. "Mr. Walker," she said to Ryan, "I'm here to serve the preliminary notice. Your accounts will be reviewed for financial misconduct." Ryan looked at me, horrified. "You called a lawyer?" "No," Joan said proudly. "I called the lawyer, and I stand by that decision." Erica handed him the documents. He sank onto the couch, pale as a ghost who'd just seen his credit score. "Margaret, please," he whispered. "Don't do this. We can rebuild." "No," I said softly. "I can rebuild. You refused." He buried his face in his hands. Erica asked quietly, "Margaret, are you ready for the next step?" I nodded. "Yes." Joan clapped her hands. "Good. Fantastic. Let's celebrate with cheesecake." "Joan," I said gently, "maybe later." "Oh." She paused. "Should I not have brought forks?" Indeed, she had forks in her pocket. Plural. Ryan didn't even notice. He sat frozen, staring at the papers, at the lawyer, at the years slipping through his fingers. And for the first time in decades, I didn't feel old. I didn't feel betrayed. I didn't feel small. I felt powerful, steady, clear. Later that night, after everyone had left, I stood alone in my studio. I touched the Monet lightly, not with sadness, but with gratitude. Tomorrow, the legal process would begin. Tomorrow, my freedom would become formal. And tomorrow, a judge would look at Ryan, the man who once mocked my age, and explain the price of those words. It wasn't revenge, it wasn't pettiness, it was justice. And justice, it turns out, looks very good on a 60-year-old woman. A week after the divorce was finalized, I returned to the courtroom. Not for another hearing, but because the judge had asked to speak with me privately. I didn't know why. Judges rarely call people back unless something has gone terribly right. Or terribly wrong. He met me in his chambers, a quiet room lined with shelves of old law books and warm afternoon light. He removed his glasses, looked at me for a long moment, and said, "Mrs. Walker, women like you remind this court why justice matters." The words hit deeper than I expected. I had held myself together for months, forcing strength into every breath, every step, every decision. But hearing that, a recognition not of what I lost, but of what I survived, something inside me finally loosened. "You walked in with dignity," he continued, "and you left with freedom. That's no small victory." When I stepped out of the courthouse again, the wind picked up, sweeping across the steps like it was clearing the path ahead. I felt taller, not younger, taller, as if my spine had rediscovered its purpose. That evening, I boxed up the last things Ryan left behind: a watch he forgot, a shirt he never wore, a notebook filled with ideas he didn't earn. I taped the box shut, set it by the door, and whispered, "Goodbye, old life." As I stood in the center of my living room, I felt something shift. A quiet, powerful certainty that my story was no longer tied to his mistakes. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Are you the woman sketching at the pier last week? I'd love to buy your painting, and maybe share a cup of tea if you're open to it." I stared at the screen, stunned, then smiling. Not because of the attention, but because the universe was clearly saying, "You've closed the right door. Now open the next one." And for the first time in years, I stepped forward without looking back.